So the empire that they conquered, they called Tawantinsuyu, which translated means the land of the four quarters, because they actually split the administration of their empire up into what kind of four quadrants. And one was Chinchasuyo, which is this green part up here, all the way up in Ecuador. Then they had Antisuyo, which is out here in the jungle portion, Kuntisuyo down in the south, and so on and so forth. And these all intersected, the four different quadrants, in the capital of the Inca Empire, which is where they started, in the Cusco, their capital. In the middle of all that, as I mentioned, were all these, the Tawantinsuyo, the four quarters of the empire, they all intersected right in the center there in the town of Cusco. And here's where they had different roads. They had a road that went up to the northern quadrant, a road went up to the eastern quadrant, and so on. These roads actually met right here where there's now the central square of Cusco, which was larger during Inca time. So now it was bisected by Cusco, but they had a big ceremonial square where these roads, which are still extant, enter the city of Cusco. And back in the day, Cusco would have looked like this. There's two streams here. It was actually laid out in the form of a lion, like a mountain lion, a Feline figure, which is runs through Peruvian history, powerful god. And here was a ceremonial plaza where the roads came in. That's what it would have looked back with the houses in there. And this is a town for, here's the Feline figure laid out on present day Cusco, there with the big Plaza de Armas, which is the big ceremonial center there. And that's where the Sun Temple was, but it was built in that kind of shape, like a puma. This was a city for the elite. This was a city for the emperor and the nobles and the administrators. And then it was surrounded by agricultural terraces. And women were, this is the queen. The Inca there was the Inca emperor and the Inca queen. And the Inca queen was a very powerful woman as well. And this is some of the clothing she would have worn: the finest alpaca linen, and vicuña, which is a wild animal, has the finest fleece in the world, vicuña hair. And the conquistador said that the women in Cusco are the most beautiful in the empire and the best dressed. This is a festival outside of Cusco. They didn't cut any corners on decking it out with some of the best stonework in the entire empire. And they had 12 different styles there. And it's still one of the reasons people visit Peru is just to see the stonework of the Incas. And I showed these before, but it's still a marvel, and it's still standing there after 500 years of earthquakes. That's the Sun Temple there at the Temple of the Sun there in Cusco. But they've left these monuments that 500 years after the contact are still standing tall. And it's interesting, like this is a street in Cusco that the Andes is very earthquake prone because they're part of the Ring of Fire. There's a lot of geological activity. And every time there's been an earthquake over the last 500 years, the Spaniards always like to build on top of the Inca structures. This is all the colonial Spanish. And here's one of the original Inca walls. And the difference is the Spaniards and Europeans used mortar. They would put bricks and that kind of thing and put mortar, and the Incas did not. So when an earthquake would come, these stones can jostle around, they can flex, they can move, and they're still there after 500 years. And usually the earthquake, the first thing that comes down are all the Spanish buildings, and then they rebuild them. But they were not only made kind of monumental structures, but they were very cleverly engineered in terms of their environment.